I have upgraded from my iPhone 12 to the 14 Pro, which is my first iPhone Pro ever. I only regret that I only made the switch now. However, is it really cause the 14 Pro is that good? Or would I feel like with any Pro model? Let's find out by covering the things that I liked, that I was neutral about, and things that I didn't like. Hey guys, so welcome back to Jay's Lifestyle channel. As I said, this is my first ever Pro iPhone, so I will share my experience with you. How was it for almost using it a month now? Because unlike other years, I am guessing a lot of users like me are considering upgrading from a normal model to a Pro model this year because of the 48 megapixel camera upgrade, the dynamic island, AOD, etc. etc. So please bear in mind that some of the features that I will be covering in this video would be just for the Pro lineup in general rather than 14 Pro specific points. So let's start with the things that I actually like. First point is promotion display. Obviously, this is not specific for 14 Pro, but man, is the promotion display something else. I do own an iPad Pro, so I got used to the promotion display, but still seeing it on an iPhone does feel different coming from an iPhone 12, which didn't have the promotion display. There is a reason why I mentioned the promotion display as my first point that I liked. You can give me all the gizmos and dynamic islands of this world, but fluidity of the screen makes 99% of your phone related activities feel much better, for sure, and I definitely love it. Also, something to note about the promotion display is that the iPhone will detect when to use the promotion display, and when you're not actively using it, it will lower the refresh rate in case you are doing something static in order to save some battery life. The second point is the big one, which is the camera. Until recently, the camera was really the differentiation factor between the Pro model and the normal. So I have to mention the camera, right? I do own a mirrorless Canon camera, which I am currently filming right now, and I always felt the biggest lacking point of a phone camera has to be the photos that you get on low light. Apple claims the night mode of the 14 Pro has improved significantly, and I do not have a 13 Pro to compare, but it is definitely a big leap closer to the quality of a full-fledged camera in my opinion. If you zoom in, you can still see the noise of pictures, but getting a high quality picture at nighttime without the tripod is also quite tough with a normal camera, so considering that, I would give it a pass for the 14 Pro for this. Action mode is definitely closer to the level of action cameras like GoPro, but at least for me, the biggest advantage of having an action camera is not only due to the stable footage I get, but also due to the durability and flexibility that you can attach it to your helmet or etc. So I will definitely bring it to my next ski trip in this winter and see how practical this actually would be. Because at the moment, for real life usage, I don't feel a very strong use case that I will be using this quite often, this action mode quite often, but let's give it a try. For the optical zoom, coming from an iPhone 12, this is definitely something I love about. When I was using the iPhone 12, for me, I'm either using the wide angle or the ultra wide, that's it. Sure, you have the ability to digitally zoom in with the 12 as well, but the quality is just few generations behind that I don't even want to use it. For the Pro, on the other hand, it currently offers 3 times optical zoom, where the quality is still quite good. But will this be my main angle when I'm shooting on the go? Definitely not. But the beauty of this function is that it gives me the flexibility of taking pictures with just a phone anywhere, anytime I want, which is the biggest advantage using a phone camera over a full-fledged camera setup. So the third point is brightness. Whenever I use a new iPhone model, I'm quite surprised by the brightness of the new device, but coming from the 12 to the Pro, this is really a big jump, especially when I'm using it outdoors at bright daylight. I don't have to grinch anymore because it is dimming down. The reason why this is so impactful is because the same way as I was praising the promotion display, the brightness of the screen has a significant impact on the feel of using a new phone, so this is definitely a plus. Even though there is no distinctive display difference compared to the 12 and the 14 Pro, the colors just feel a bit more crisp, probably due to the higher brightness when watching HDR content or using outside. So the fourth point is better speaker. This is something that I really didn't expect, nor is it obvious on the spec sheet, but the speakers on the 14 Pros are significantly better than the 12. I have quite a few audio devices at home, and in no way am I saying that the iPhone is anywhere close to that, but the upgrade is pretty significant. The sounds don't crack as much in loud volume compared to the 12, and my personal impression is that it has a bit more bass. I still won't be using it as a music listening device, but you could if you're not picky about sound quality. Last but not least, the fifth point is the material. This is also not specifically for the 14 Pro, but Pro models in general. The glossy stainless steel around the edges look very premium, despite the cost of a bit more weight. I kind of like it, because it less feels like a toy, but a premium device, which fits the name of Pro. The bigger and thicker camera bump does worry me a bit, and also this does not sit flat on the surface, but at least for me personally, I have my screen facing the table usually. So hopefully this shouldn't be a big problem. Also on the back, I'm sure this is the same for the other color options as well, but it's just so smooth. I almost don't want to use a phone case on it, but because I don't have Apple Care, I probably will be. So these were some of the highlights that I actually liked about the 14 Pro. Now let's cover the points which I need some more time to come to my conclusion, hence it is neutral for the time being. The first point is dynamic island. Funny, right? As many people at the event, the dynamic island was just a killer point of the iPhone release event, and even for me, that was the main reason why I went for the Pro lineup this year. It was just another example why Apple is Apple and how they turned into something that could be a hardware limitation into something new that we didn't know we needed for. However, putting some bugs that happened earlier aside, it was underwhelming for me. For those who don't know what Dynamic Island is, simply said, it is a display output around the pill shaped hole on the phone showing music statuses, Face ID verifications, device connection notification, etc. etc. Then why do I feel like this system is at the moment underwhelming? So the followings are some of the functions that the Dynamic Island is currently supporting. As you can see, at the moment, only simple tasks or connected to basic apps are supported on Dynamic Island. Although I have high hopes that app developers will be able to play around with this function going forward, at the moment, my main lifesaver of this function is when I'm interacting with Apple Music, which also works for Spotify, where I can skip to a new song while using my phone without having to go to the Apple Music app. How the gesture works is that if you long press at the top of your screen, the relevant app will expand and you can do simple actions from there. And if you just tap on it, it will bring you to that relevant app. Some people are complaining that the gesture has to be opposite, but the current way sort of works for me better, to be honest. However, I do agree with the people, at least users should be able to flip it if they want to do so, which is, in my understanding, it's not possible yet. Besides few apps, I feel like this function is a bit gimmicky at the moment. And at what cost? Depending on the video ratio that you will be watching, some videos are blocking even more screen estate than the notch design from the 13 or the 12. This was not a big showstopper for me, but makes me scratch my head whether this is really worth the price of the small function we are receiving. The only reason why this element did not go to the bad point is because of the future it holds, makes me want to hold on to it. Hopefully, this function will not be a try and error case like the touch panel of the MacBook a few years back, and we can have actually cool stuff working with third party apps on the dynamic island going forward. The next neutral point is always on display. Another treasure box we received from the iPhone release. I love how it naturally dims the background depending on the wallpaper you have on your phone and turns into AOD mode very naturally. Also, when I have, for example, my timer on, it still displays the remaining time. So together with the renewed home screen adjustment you can make on iOS 16, this is actually quite handy. However, as many have pointed out, it is a bit too bright, which makes me always reconfirm whether I'm really off or on. I believe they can release a software update where we can at least choose to dim a bit lower if we wanted to. The biggest problem I have with AOD is that I see so many reviews that claims that AOD is actually draining a lot of battery. Despite that fact, I still have my AOD on because most of the time I'm in arm's length of a charger, but I will definitely make sure to turn this function off in case I know I will be doing some activities outside. Just like the dynamic island, unless there is a bigger advantage of using it, I don't think AOD at the moment is giving us anything besides good to have. Now let's move on to the bad points I realized using the iPhone Pro 14. First point is the biggest one is the battery life. This is the biggest downside I realized while using the new iPhone Pro. Maybe my expectation for the battery life was too high, as I heard so many good reviews with the 13 Pro and Pro Max model last year. However, 14 Pro battery life was very mediocre for me. When I'm just going to the office, it lasts until end of day without a problem. But when I'm outside testing the camera and watching few videos on the go, don't think I'm receiving the extra 6 hours of video playback compared to the 12 model. I'm still scratching my head whether AOD is the only point we need to blame here. It feels like iOS 16 have in general increased the battery usage for all the phones, because I realized the battery at my 12 was also draining faster than before iOS 16. Either way, I feel like we reached a point in smartphone world where we require a big leap for battery life in the foreseeable future. We still remember the old cell phones that lasted days without charging, and you could even detach the battery to make the transition seamless. Of the recent batteries, I am also aware the phones back then were consuming way less power, which made that possible. After the smartphone has released like 14-15 years ago, feel like we got accustomed to a phone that does not even last a day with active usage. Hopefully, just like we had a groundbreaking switch from normal cell phones to smartphones, I wish we see a big development in battery area as well, so that we can truly utilize all the functions that the smartphones these days have to offer without having to worry of bringing a charger. Second point is cinematic mode. Since I upgraded from 12, this is the first time for me using the cinematic mode, which already got a boost from 1080p to 4K if you compare it with the 13 Pro. Don't get me wrong, I am very impressed with the quality that it delivers, but don't think I will be using it often. Only because, since this is a software function, I can still see some cases where the edges of a person or object is not perfectly blurred, which is a bit disturbing, at least from in my eyes. And since I'm not a professional videographer, I will be sticking to the normal video recording function for the time being. Third point is lightning cable. Yes, 2022 and still lightning cable. To be fair, I am most of the times charging my iPhone with the MagSafe, which is a function that I actually love. But when I'm traveling or borrowing from a friend, it is really frustrating that I need to bring an extra lightning cable just for a few Apple products, and iPhone being one of them. Every year we say, is this the year? And always get disappointed, but really hope next year is the year where we can see a USB Type-C or a better solution in general for the iPhone charging method. In summary, I'm very happy with the purchase with the fundamental upgrade from the 12 model, but for the new small gizmos that I was actually looking forward to, like AOD and Dynamic Island, I feel like still need some time to really fall in love. Will I be upgrading to the 15 or 16 Pro? Definitely. But if they cannot improve the battery life massively, Probably in the future, I will be going for the Max model next time. Not because I like the size, but purely because I would like to enjoy the bigger battery life. For any non Pro users out there, I feel like you will not regret the purchase if you go for the 14 Pro this year. More so than any other year, actually. The Pro deserves its Pro name in every way. If you already own a 13 or even 12 Pro, I would say wait if you can. For the 15 Pro, cause the AOD and dynamic island function which makes the 14 unique was sort of mediocre. And there you have it. If you found this video useful, please hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.